Welcoming you to a life of awareness, the Presence Project is excited for you to join us for today's podcast with your host, Paul Kerzner.
Hello and welcome to episode 57 of Are You Being Present? My name is Paul Kerzner. I want to welcome you to the present moment. I want to welcome you to the here and now. And I want to thank you wholeheartedly, sincerely, and deeply for joining me in this amazing present moment. The title and topic for today's podcast is Parenting Yourself with Presence. And I decided that it was a good moment for me to share a new presence tool. And this is a tool that I share in clinic often. It's also a tool that I use throughout my day. And I feel like this would be a good addition to add into your Presence Toolbox. What do I mean, and what does it mean to parent yourself, especially parenting yourself with presence? We go through our lives, and parenting is usually modeled after our birth parent. And for the most part, logically, that makes sense. But unfortunately, we tend to take some of the less than positive traits from our parents, and we start using it on ourselves, sometimes against ourselves. And that's not helpful at all. Up until this point, in the podcast series, we've been talking about letting the past go. So if I'm suggesting parenting yourself, we're going to have to let go of the past parenting models that have been instilled upon you. Because deep down, you know what the best parenting would be like for you. And I'm sure that there are some listeners in the audience that are parents. We've all had parents. So we know some of the things we like, and we also know some of the things we don't like. But I'm asking you to set all that aside. Because learning how to parent yourself in the present moment is a very, very useful tool for a variety of reasons. And this kind of piggybacks upon some of the previous podcasts where I've touched upon how are you talking to yourself? How are you observing the voice in your head? This is pretty much the next step. This is the next tool. So the question is, how are you parenting yourself? Are you aware that you can parent yourself in the present moment? If I'm going to give you an example, what I would tell you is this. As I go throughout my day, of course, I'm going to encounter certain challenges, certain triggers. And if there's enough challenges or enough triggers in any given present moment, it becomes quite difficult to actually stay present. And usually there could be some kind of visceral physiological response to the things that are happening for me. It's in those moments that I have to open up my Presence Toolbox. And one of my most useful tools is parenting myself. So what does that mean to parent myself? It means that I have to be the best parent to myself, for myself in that present moment. I know what that looks like. I know what that feels like. And I know what that sounds like. And so what I will do is, I will communicate with myself, sometimes in my head, sometimes out loud. It all depends upon where I'm at and what's going on, what conditions are unfolding. But, the conversation with myself, parenting myself, is talking to myself in a very loving, empathetic way, in a way that's not judgmental. And that's really important, because if I could parent myself and be supportive, compassionate, understanding in those moments where, it feels like all these things are happening at the same time and really, unrooting me, the parenting helps to ground me out, and it also makes me feel better. It provides a level of internal validation that I think so many of us need, including myself. And so what I'll do is I'll tell myself that, it's okay. So the conversation is like this. Hey, Paul, I know you're going through a rough time right now, and I understand that this is really challenging and it doesn't necessarily feel good, but you're doing a good job. And I know you're doing your best. So hang in there, because it's going to be okay, because nothing lasts. So let's be present. Let's calm ourselves. Let's take a step back. And, let's just enjoy this for what it is. Let's learn from it. And so that's only one example of a conversation of parenting that I'll have with myself. But, it's interesting because when I present this tool to the people I work with, a lot of times the first reaction is, well, why didn't I think of that? And I totally get it, because I don't think it's a very common tool that we would just stumble upon or figure out for ourselves, which is why it's so important that I'm presenting it to you, for you, in this present moment, and asking you, can you parent yourself in your present moments? It will help alleviate a lot of self-inflicted suffering, because you will provide the support that only you know how to give to yourself. That statement is really important, and it's certainly worth unfolding, because you know what you need. You know how you feel. And it's not a matter of finding someone else to give us what we perceive that we need. We have to give it to ourselves, and we can do that through parenting. So why not parent yourself? You're going to have all these opportunities as you go throughout your day, as you become triggered. Hopefully you don't get triggered, but as you brush up against different triggers, or you start feeling frustrated or angry, whatever it is that's starting to pull you out of the present moment, whatever it is that's activating your fight or flight response, that's when it's so important in real time to use a tool like parenting, because it talks you off the proverbial ledge. It calms your nervous system down, and it feels good. That's the other thing. And that's really the kicker there, is that talking to yourself on that level with those supportive words, it's relieving. And why would we not do something that's going to help relieve some of the friction, some of the pressure that we're experiencing in any given moment? So there's a lot of value in learning how to parent yourself, to actually parenting yourself in the present moment. And of course, being present allows you to see when you need to parent yourself, because you have that level of clarity to say, okay, wait a second, I know I'm going through something here. Let me converse with myself. Let me calm myself down. Let me support myself. And you know what? Like, you can shift so quickly out of any given emotional state of being if you can be that loving parent for yourself, with yourself, to yourself. I will continue to share this tool in clinic, and I thought it was really important to share it with the people listening to this podcast, because why not? Why are we not parenting ourselves? I mean, some of you are parenting other living beings, and all of us have been parented at some point, but that all dulls in comparison to how we can parent ourselves through any given situation, through any conditions, through any level of self-inflicted suffering, which doesn't need to take place. And really, the point of this podcast series was to help alleviate the self-inflicted suffering. And of course, parenting yourself is one of the quintessential presence tools that you can use so that you can alleviate the self-inflicted suffering. So it's not necessary at all. So there it is, ladies and gentlemen. I really feel like this is a great add-on, a great addition to all the things that we've been talking about. And instead of looking outside of yourself and seeking comfort, seeking validation, seeking empathy, why not give it to yourself? I say why not, but definitely give it to yourself. Definitely be the best parent that you can be for yourself in any given situation. It's going to smooth out the edges. It's going to allow you to remain in that flow state. But more importantly, it's going to allow you to remain present through whatever experience that you're going through, because of that great level of parenting that you're doing for yourself, that you're guiding yourself through. Because life is full of peaks and valleys. Nothing lasts. So when we get peaked out, if we can use a tool like parenting, it definitely shortens the duration of the peak and allows us to smooth things out so we can get back into the valley where everything's nice and calm. So I hope that you found this podcast informative. And what I really hope is that you can implement a presence tool like parenting yourself, because it will provide you with the relief that you're seeking. And the beauty is is that you do it for yourself. You do it to yourself. There's no need for anyone else or anything else to help you through that moment. Be the best parent for yourself that you possibly can be. And you will see everything will shift. Everything will get better. And you will be present. I don't think I really need to go any deeper into that one. I feel like this is a pretty straightforward tool. It could be implemented by anyone at any time. And it has tremendous power. So I hope that you will start using it. And, as always, I thank everyone for listening to this podcast and every preceding podcast. And it has always been my intention to provide you guys with the tools and the information that you need so that you don't have to constantly deal with self-inflicted suffering. It's just not necessary. And I've never said and I've never believed that presence was the end-all be-all to end all suffering. It's not. But presence tools like parenting, of course presence tools like acceptance, they just make things easier. And at the end of the day, isn't that what we all want, is just our lives to be a little bit easier? Well then, there it is. So thank you for listening. And I want to welcome you back to the present moment.
Thank you for listening to the Are You Being Present podcast, brought to you by the Presence Projects. Remember, you have a choice. Choose to be present.